depression can be defined as decline in economic growth over several months and has some impact on a country. In economic terms, it is a decrease in a country's gross domestic product or negative economic growth for 2 or more consecutive quarters in a year. Economically defined as a total domestic demand is highly ineffective as the general price level decline. As we can see in the economic history in our country, the economic depression began in 1997. This is the biggest economic depression in our country. The spread of the COVID-19 pandemic that hit the country has caused economic activities while the world economy has deteriorated significantly. There are 4 effects to economic depression, which is inflation, unemployment, job quality, and public deficit.
What is inflation? First of all, inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and consequently, the purchasing power of currency is falling. Understanding inflation. Inflation, as prices rise, a single unit of currency lost value as it buy fewer goods and services. This loss of purchasing power impact the general cost of living for the common public, which ultimately leads to deceleration in economic growth. There are many reasons for inflation. Number 1, the money supply. Number 2, national debt. Number 3, demand pull effect. Number 4, cost push effect. And number 5, exchange rate. Inflation is also contributing factor to economic depression. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected to the economy, which causes inflation. As a result of the epidemic, many organizations are unable to operate once in countries where our authorities have implemented movement restriction or lockdown. The rate of inflation may be a critical component of the misery index, which is an economic indicator that helps to see a mean citizen financial health. I argue that COVID-19 impact on the economy and trigger to economic depression. As a consequence, we need to understand the cause of inflation and the impact of inflation that could harm the economy. If not controlled, it will be a problem for the economy to collapse.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Today I want to talk about unemployment. As we know, this issue is hotly debated right now in our country. As a result of COVID-19, Malaysian unemployment rate increased to 5.3% in May 2020 from 5% in April 2020 as the number of unemployed persons rose by 47,300 to 826,100 individuals, according to the Statistics Department today. The monthly change of unemployed persons in May 2020 was much lower than the change registered for March to April at 168,300 people. Malaysia May 2020 labor force by 1,800% to 15.71 million people from a month early. Year on year, the May 2020 labor force recorded an increase of 7,700%. The labor force participation rate in May 2020 stood at 68.1%, registering a decline of 0.1 percentage point month-on-month as outflow into outside labor force continued to increase. As for outside labor force, in May 2020, the segment increasing 0.6%, recording inflow of 47,100% as against April 2020. This brought the total number to 7.39 million persons. The largest share of 43.4% was outside labor force due to housework, family responsibility, with the number in this category increasing by 1.0% from April 2020. This was followed by a share of 39.1% who were schooling. This is all for me. Thank you.
Job quality can be defined as the quality of work obtained from an employee who is able to carry out work well and able to work in group or alone with a responsible attitude. At the beginning of 2020, the world was shocked by the COVID-19 pandemic that had affected more than 18 countries, including Malaysia. So, because of this pandemic, this gave an effect to national economy. So, many workers in Malaysia had been lose their job. This will indirectly increase the number of unemployed in Malaysia. Most of the companies and enterprise in Malaysia had been closed because employees are unable to pay employees' salary as loss incurred during the movement control. Next, with the closure of these companies and enterprise like restaurant, mini market and the others will affect the GDP of the country due to the absence of economic circulation. In my opinion, the company or enterprise should make preparation and stand by to have at least some of saving or business technique that will stand for 6 months after the disaster or face loss. If a company have a good saving system, it can certainly survive although country have an economic depression. So the company or enterprise will not fire their workers and can continue the operation when everything back to normal.
Last but not least, the coronavirus pandemic that shocked the entire world and causes economic depression to every single of country, especially the underdeveloped countries, effect to their public deficit. The country's deficit increased as many governments declare movement control order. The public deficit is a situation where the government spend more than the budget they are providing. This happens frequently to several countries, including Malaysia. Malaysia spent huge expenses during the Movement Control Order (MCO) to fight the pandemic itself and to help people who need, because a lot of work had to stop and people starting to lose job and income. So, the Malaysian government also provide financial helps that is called Bantuan Prihatin Nasional (BPN) to all low-income households such as the B40 and M40 groups. This amount indirectly increased the country deficit. The economic stimulus package named the Plan Penjana Semula Ekonomi (Penjana) is where the government will provide various assistance to various categories of people and business organizations. But now it worked to increase the public deficit because even Malaysians still fighting the coronavirus pandemic, we still become the safest countries around the eyes of the world.
In conclusion, the spread of COVID in conclusion, The spread of the COVID-19 pandemic is not only threatened the world health sector, but also the global economic downturn. This current economic situation may take a long time to stabilize. So, all countries need to be prepared and work together for the benefits of all parties.